In my humble opinion, OMAD is the simplest way to lose weight. And you might be wondering, well, how does it actually work? And the way OMAD works is the way every single weight loss plan that is successful works. It makes it so that your body is in a caloric deficit. Whether or not you exercise, just by virtue of existing, your body burns a certain amount of calories. So you're burning calories every day, and then every day you're eating food, and food contains calories. Now, if you eat fewer calories than your body needs to exist, then you have put yourself into a caloric deficit. And what happens is your body then searches for alternative ways to fuel itself. And if you have stored body fat, then it will go into those fat reserves and it will burn calories that way. Thus, when you are in a caloric deficit, you end up losing weight. Now, OMAD, when done correctly, will help you lose weight by putting you in a caloric deficit. It is not necessarily the case that you will eat OMAD and put yourself into a caloric deficit. There's nothing magic about OMAD. The thing is, it is difficult for some of us to eat the right amount of calories if we're trying to split it up into small meals throughout the day. Now, there are a couple of different reasons for that. One is it's difficult if you're eating multiple times a day to get the calorie counts right and to just eat the right amount. A lot of times you're going to forget. What exactly did you have for breakfast? What exactly did you have for a snack? What did you have for lunch? How much did you eat? Add to that the fact that so much of the food around us is high calorie and easily accessible, that it's just simply easy to eat a lot of calories at each meal. Now, when you just eat one meal a day, it has squished all the food into just one meal where you can be super aware of how much you're eating. And also, by having it at just that one meal, it eliminates a lot of opportunities that you might have to eat for reasons other than nourishing your body with calories. So in other words, sometimes when you're stressed or you're sad or you're happy, you just want to eat to celebrate or to, numb out the sadness. And when you're just practicing one meal a day, you've eliminated that. It's just easier to eat the right amount of food if you have just one meal. To give you an example of this, let's say you're trying to eat 1,500 calories, and that's a pretty standard recommendation for the average woman who's trying to lose weight, just average size, that kind of thing. 1,500 calories is reasonable. So one way you could do that, if you're trying to eat 3, reasonable meals, you could have 2 eggs, 2 pieces of toast with 1 tablespoon of butter as your lubrication for the eggs and for the spread on the toast. Maybe it would stretch that far. And then for lunch, you could have a PB&J. And then at dinner, you could have 4 chicken tenders. Now, those meals, for a lot of people, that's just not going to be a really satisfying kind of meal. Like with chicken tenders, most people want some sort of dipping sauce. I really like honey mustard, personally. And for, the toast, you're going to want, a more of a slather of butter and not just the tiny, thin little coat. So it's hard enough when you are just, picking food at home to eat, to try to get the right amount of calories at each meal and have what's really a reasonable amount of calories. If you try to have snacks with that, it's going to be even less. You're going to have an even sparser meal. And by the way, if you go out to eat on a regular basis, a lot of times if you're getting the meal deal, you're probably bumping up on 1,000 calories at each meal. For example, a McDouble meal at McDonald's, if you have the Coke with it, is 990 calories. Or if you go over to Chick-fil-A and you have a Chick-fil-A sandwich and some fries and a sweet tea, no refills and no dipping sauces, that's going to be 940 calories. And even if you opt for the grilled chicken option, it's only going to save you 30 calories. The point is, it's just difficult to eat a good amount of calories at each meal without feeling deprived. On the other hand, let's pretend like you practice OMAD. Well, if you just eat one meal a day, you could go to Outback Steakhouse and you could get yourself the ribeye, the loaded mashed potatoes, and have a house salad with rice dressing, and you'd eat about 1,500 calories. So you can still have a good, big, fancy meal and still lose weight. But I need to re-emphasize, you do have to be in a caloric deficit. If you put in your information into one of those calculators and you figure out that you're burning about 1,700 calories a day, and then you proceed to sit down to your OMAD and you eat 2,000 calories day in and day out, you're going to gain weight. OMAD only works when you think of it as a tool to help you get yourself into a deficit on a consistent basis. If you want to lose about 1 pound a week, you need to be in a deficit of about 500 calories every single day. So if you're burning 2,000, you need to be eating 1,500 on a regular basis. Now, if your deficit is lower than that, then you're going to lose weight slower. Now, if your deficit is greater, then you would lose weight faster. The problem is, if you get too aggressive with your deficit, you're gonna feel too deprived and it just won't be sustainable and you'll probably end up quitting because it feels too difficult. OMAD makes it easier to just eat the right amount of food without feeling deprived so that you can continually stay in that deficit so that you lose weight, so that you get to your goal weight. And that is how OMAD works. In 2015, I weighed in at 222 pounds, which meant I was obese. I was determined to figure out a way to lose the weight permanently while still eating all the foods that I loved. I found success when I committed to a very simple plan. I practiced intermittent fasting 6 days a week, took a cheat day on Sunday, and walked 6 miles every day. I determined that I would not count calories. I would not restrict any foods or carbs, and I would instead focus on eating until I was full. I lost a total of 80 pounds with this plan, and it's helped me maintain in a healthy weight range for over 6 years. I've taken the lessons I've learned on my weight loss journey and written the Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles, and the Laid Back Guide to Weight Loss Maintenance. Grab your copies on Amazon and get started losing weight today.